In the beginning, everything takes a certain shape. Everything takes a certain form. Everything has a certain rhythm. In the beginning of every endeavor, in the beginning of music, it took a certain form, a certain shape. It was raw, it was rough, it was real, it was emotional. And then it became, more experimental, and then the drugs that changed music, and now it's became more pop, more plastic. Now it's more computer generated. Things take shape, change form. We still call it music. In the business I entered so many years ago, back in 2005, 2006, is the esoteric business. And the esoteric business is about truth, knowledge. It's about knowledge that we don't have access to. It's about knowledge we don't have access to. It's not about, although it's called the truth movement, it's because we are so distant from the truth that we consider that it's like a movement. It's like a huge awakening. It's like something that we've never seen before, right? It's like a new kind of music. It's like when they first discovered jazz or the blues. It's like, I've never seen this before. And then it enters into consciousness, it enters into the mainstream, it becomes published, it becomes presented, it goes on television. The problem with the esoteric knowledge, if you call that a stream of knowledge, it gets beaten up because it just doesn't fit into the boxes of society, the boxes that we're accustomed to. And not only that, is the people in charge of the industries, they don't like disruption. So they don't like people realizing that the 9-to-5 job is terrible. It's a waste of life, because then people will seek job elsewhere. They will start their own business. They will go out in the woods. They will go traveling. They will find something else to do when they realize. When you wake up and you realize your job is crap, you will change your lifestyle. So if people start doing that, changing their lifestyle, right? Getting out of the box, that disrupts society. That disrupts the faith in the leadership, that disrupts institutions, that disrupts knowledge. Because if scientific knowledge says only these things are possible, and then the esotericists come in and say, wait a minute, we can achieve what is impossible, right? Who determines what is possible? That's the esoteric. Those are the shamans. Why is this not possible? Because somebody said so. And so what happens is you change the paradigm, right? When you talk about extraterrestrials, as if you've met them and you've encountered them, and there's testimony after testimony, and the whistleblowers, well, that now counters the scientific basis of extraterrestrial life. Is there, because not so many years ago, the question was, is there other intelligence in the universe? And we'd bring on a scientist, a physicist, and say, do you think extraterrestrial life can exist? And they'd postulate, well, given the size of the universe, it is entirely plausible Although, because we are a lesser developed society, we would not be able to discover that for quite some time. Right? So we as a society get accustomed to that level of knowledge. So that means that the extraterrestrial is impossible. The scientists have not discovered it. Science, NASA doesn't know anything about it. People come here and they start teaching. And they start saying, extraterrestrials exist. I've seen these blue beings, these little grays came into my bedroom. I've been on a ship. So knowledge disrupts what is possible. And that's why there's been this, for the last 20 years, there's been this thrush. Because before the last 20 years, it was this introduction of metaphysics, right? Be all you can be, think positive, plan your life. If you don't plan to succeed, you plan to fail, right? It was all of this kind of this motivational speeches, metaphysics, quantum thinking. And then that shifted into the truth movement. I call it the truth movement because people came out and said, this is happening. Here's a disclosure. There's a disclosure. Secret societies. Secret society was a big thing, right? And so all of this knowledge has disrupted society. And it's caused mass disruption. It's caused an awakening in society called the woke movement, the woke society. And now people now are not as, I would say, entrenched in their thoughts. Well, wait a minute, right? Someone said NASA didn't find life on Earth, but this guy said he's seen a spaceship. This woman saw an alien. Now, okay, wait a minute. Now I don't have to believe that. I can believe that. And then most people will kind of do both. Well, I'm going to go here. Maybe. So we were in this realm. Now, if anybody is aware of what's going on, you know that at the time the truth movement came in, there is the untruth movement, the misinformation. All of the plants, right? The plants, the propagandists, the trolls, spreading false information and leading people over here. Oh, well, the Earth is flat. Although every other planet in the solar system is round, and the sun is round, and the moon is round, Earth is flat. And so people go over here, and then you got the evil aliens. Actually, there are aliens, but they're evil. And so now you're getting this dispersion, dilution of the truth. Now, what do you follow? What do I believe? I got to believe something. Okay, I believe in aliens and the Earth is flat. Another guy says, I believe, well, there's probably aliens, but they are interdimensional. They're from a 5D reality, right? From a 5D dimension. They're not real. They're actually trans-dimensional. And then you get another group that says they're actually from the future. They're from 50,000 years in the future, and they're us. Because 50,000 years from now, we are more advanced, and we're coming back to correct the mistakes so that the future is okay. Now, so if you're listening, I've presented 3 or 4 already. These are actually real scenarios that are in circulation. So what are they? And that's the challenge. That's the challenge of life, right? It's like when you go shopping, there's dishwashing liquid A, dishwashing liquid B, dishwashing liquid C, and dishwashing liquid D, and that's the cheap one. Now, some people only buy the cheap one. Some people buy the most expensive. Some people buy the brand, and some people buy the organic one. There's something for everyone at the store. And there's something for everyone at the truth store. So that, for all the people who don't like listening to what I say, they like listening to somebody else. And for all the people who don't like somebody else, they like listening to what I say. And for the most astute, they like to listen to everybody because they can glean a little bit from everybody. Well, he's partly right, and he's partly right, he's partly right, he's partly right, she's partly right, she's got the gist, she's on the right track, and then they create a hybrid, and I believe in this. And that's just like going to the grocery store. That's why we have access to information. That's why we have knowledge. That's why people talk and share knowledge. The issue with esoteric knowledge is a big one. And I'll tell you why. Because not so long ago, you had to earn the right to get that esoteric knowledge, to get the truth. You had to earn it. So in the traditional sense, you would become, let's say I want to learn spiritual knowledge, I would join a temple and I would become a monk. So we're going back, let's say 500 years, I become a monk. I join the temple. Now I have to follow the temple rules. Shave my head, give away all my belongings, adopt these principal ideas. Why am I doing this? Because I want to understand who I am. I want to understand what's the meaning of life. I want to understand, is there a God, a being? What do they want from me? So I commit to this modality, or you join the church and you become a nun, or you serve in the church, right? Or you go on to, you join an organization helping homeless people and working in third world countries. Or in the 70s, in the 60s, you would just, start traveling and seeking a guru. Going to India, seek a guru. Going to Peru, right, to speak to a shaman. And you would travel. You'd have to travel. So you'd travel to India, right, at your cost. It's your own cost because you want something. You want to understand something. And then you would go and you climb the mountain. And to that point, you'd probably be doing a lot of yoga, and you've changed your diet. You're eating vegetarian. You're vegan. You've changed your modality, but I want to know more. So I go to India, I climb up the mountain, and I find the guru. Some old, usually a male, with a beard. And you ask him, what is the secret of life? And usually in the past, he would say, you are not ready. Or he would say nothing, and you'd have to sit there for weeks. Every day, you go there and sit there for 4 or 5 hours. He says nothing. You go back down. You live in the village. And the next day you go up. And you do this every day. And you learn humility. You become more humble and modest. He's training. He's training yourself, right? To be ready for the knowledge. And the other students will say you're not ready because your ego. You got too much of an ego. So when you go down the mountain and you live in the village and you're living in the mud and you're eating with your hands, right? You become more humble, and you see poor people and you see sick people And all of a sudden, this thirst and this greed for knowledge, I want the truth, give it to me. You become more humble, you're more centered, more grounded, and you slowly defeat the ego, right? Which is the path to understanding. You must have an open mind. Open mind. You're not open mind. So that was in the past. To get that knowledge, you would have to seek a guru, a teacher, but they won't teach you. Not like today. Today says, okay, give me $500 and I'll teach you. No, before, I don't need your money. Go help those people and do this and do that, do this, and after 1 month, I will talk with you. That was the cost. The cost is, right? Those people need your help. I want you to go here. I have a few tasks for you. After 1 month, come find me, and then we will talk. He's not asking for money. That's not the path to enlightenment, $500. So what you're reading, I hope what you're seeing is that the path to advanced knowledge had to be earned. There was a process, and part of that process is you deciding you want. So you're committing, you're flying to a different place, you're traveling somewhere, you might be leaving your job or taking a vacation. So there's a cost, your cost. There's no guarantee, because you can go to a different country and you can get killed by some rebels, right? By some drug lords. There's a risk. There's a cost, there's a risk. You might go away and never come back. But you're seeking that knowledge. And then you get there and things are much different than you thought. And then you run out of money. And maybe get robbed. And then, this process is called, the removal of the ego, the grounding, the humility, humbleness, modesty, all those things that you can't really use in modern day. And you get to a point and you find the teacher, and then they still say, you're not ready, right? Because you got religious beliefs, you got scientific beliefs, you're very ignorant. There's other issues. Maybe you have issues with your parent or some traumatic experience that's preventing you from understanding something, right? Then you go through another process. The teacher says, do this, do that. The teacher, though, is quite wise. So they say, well, do this, do that. And then you come back another month later and you receive some knowledge. But you're not receiving the secret of life. You're basically becoming closer to who you really are. You're discovering yourself. And then eventually, because you cannot tell someone the secret of life just like that, just willy-nilly. You can't, because they won't understand it, right? You won't understand it. If you, especially if you live in wealth and comfort and certain beliefs, you can't just come in there and say this is the true nature of reality, because they don't want to understand it. They're gonna laugh. They won't make sense of it, and they'll probably call you names. I've been called a lot of names. 20 years ago, I've been called a lot of names. Now, hundreds of people are saying the same thing I was saying back then. And they're not getting called names, so they can't call me names. But in the beginning, now, my approach was very unique because of the situation. That people were lacking information and there's a lot of disinformation. So when I came in, my approach was to just give them a flat-line truth. That was my approach. Here is what I know. It may be, maybe right or wrong. I think it's right. I've done the research. I've had the experience. Most of my knowledge comes from experience. This is what I know. This is what I think it works. And it's just very matter of fact blunt, in your face, this is the way I think it works. And so the reaction was very strong, because they would say, he's not a scientist, right? He's not a professor. He's just some guy. But that was my approach. This is, incarnation. This is the extraterrestrials. This, how does the world work? It was all of my research. Everything was researched. I've always researched. I didn't make things up. I researched. You're never 100% right in anything. There's nothing there that's 100%, which what sometimes people want, 100%. 100% money back guarantee. So this is in the early days of YouTube, when YouTube was being used for other stuff, and anybody with knowledge or esoteric knowledge or experience or a book, they would go on the radio. They would go on the radio, and they've been researching for many years, and they've got the credibility and the relationships, or they had a book. So, and I tried to get on the radio, Coast to Coast AM. I tried to get on Coast to Coast AM. They said no. They said, "Who are you?" And the first time I tried, they said, "You don't even have a book." Right? I said, "You don't even have a book." So then I started writing books. And then they said, "Well, we're not interested." And other radio programs, we're not interested. So then I saw YouTube, and I went on YouTube, because nobody with a shred of credibility would go on YouTube, because YouTube had no credibility. YouTube, was just a place to have fun and make little videos. I took like real knowledge and just put it on YouTube. And I got attacked on YouTube by the trolls and the agents and everybody else. So that was my path, because I didn't have that credibility. I didn't have that knowledge. I didn't have those contacts, that experience. A lot of the teachers before, they used to be doctors. So they were Dr. so-and-so, right? They would be Dr. this, Dr. that. They'd be a doctor, or they were a scientist. And then they would lean on that and says, "I'm a doctor, I'm a scientist, I'm a professor, I'm a former professor, I'm a retired professor." I had none of that. But I had this knowledge. And so I started sharing on YouTube. That was my path. It was a very difficult path. And it's interesting, because after a period of time, the people on the radio started going on YouTube. They have a YouTube channel. And then the radio channel would have a YouTube channel. Right? Understand that. I tried to get it on the radio. They told me no. So I went to YouTube. Now the radio station is going on getting a YouTube channel, which I've had for many years. So it's interesting. It's interesting how things play out over time. But still, I think the approach is that esoteric knowledge is a process you can't learn overnight. You cannot even if I gave you this, what I think is the secret of life, you cannot understand it until you've done a lot of personal work. You've done a lot of soul searching, and you've come to a point in your life where you need to know that. Because maybe right now you don't need to know that. You want to know other stuff. What's the secret? What secrets are they hiding? What's the disclosure? What's behind this event? What's behind this event? Is there an agenda? Maybe you want all that stuff. So everybody has a path. and everybody has to find their own path. And if you want a shortcut, if you want the easy way, I don't think that's good for you. Because if you give somebody the right piece of knowledge at the wrong time, it can be more harmful, right? And I used to do that, and I say that from experience, because I had this great knowledge and this great experience, and I've had some great teachers myself, and experiences that are just outside of this world. And I would go to people, I want to tell people, hey, this is happening, this is real. And people would just, they call you, first they call you names, but they're not interested. They don't want it, they don't care. Now, those same people that I approached early on or made videos on, 10 years later, 15 years later, they're like, hey, remember you were saying this. I remember you said something about that. And then they've learned a bunch of stuff. I know this, I know this, I know this, I know that. Well, what does that mean? And now I could say that means that. Like a little piece of the puzzle. But now we're talking 10 years, 10 years later, 15 years later. So as a teacher, I took the wrong approach in the beginning because I was excited, I was passionate, I was desperate to teach, and I thought it would be easy just to tell people the truth and then just get it over with, right? You tell everybody the truth and my work is done, I can go home. I told them, they didn't listen, I'm done, finished. But that was not the right approach. And the opposite would be me to stand in the mountain or in the trees and wait for people to come. But when I tried to get on radio, then nobody wanted to hear me. So nobody's going to come to me, and you can't force people. So the truth, the knowledge is a very finicky thing, and it's very personal. And so over the years, I've adjusted my approach just to share what I know, how I know it. Having gone through all the trials and tribulation. And then it's up to people to decide what they watch, how much of it they watch, what they understand, right? What they can comprehend, because you can go back. The advantage is that you can go back now years, and some of my early work is very intense. If you've ever seen my early videos, they're very intense, because I'm just like, this is the truth. Because at the time, we were in a very different situation, what I would say desperate situation, because things were just shut down. They were black and white. And so I took a very aggressive approach. Today, there are many, hundreds, thousands of people saying what I was saying 20 years ago. Celebrities, non-celebrities, teachers, podcasters, writers, everybody, what I was saying. And one of the things I used to say, and I'll just give you an example, is I took a very aggressive approach. I talk about the multidimensional reality. So this is, I think, 2007 or 2008. I came to the realization through my studies that we live in a multidimensional world. So let's say 2007, which is 16 years ago. I would say we live in a multidimensional world, and there's videos of me talking about we live in a multidimensional reality. And nobody wanted to listen to it, and they called me names. Nobody wanted to listen to it. No, we don't. There's no scientific proof. No scientific proof. You're delusional. No, and I would say no. We live in and I went on a campaign to say we live in a multidimensional reality on Twitter. I was early on the Twitter. I was making videos. We live in a multidimensional reality. We live in a multidimensional reality. I wrote books on it. No, we don't. No, we don't. 2007. Fast forward now to today. So what are most of these, comic book movies about? The multiverse. But it's not just that. It's people. When you ask people, they go, we live in a multi-dimensional world. We live in a multiverse. That's not just the movies. I'm saying many things are happening at the same. People are telling me many things are happening at the same time. We just can't see it. Multi-dimensional, multiverse, multiple timelines. Right? So knowledge takes time. When you seek knowledge, but when you teach knowledge, it takes time. And it's always been like that. That even you want knowledge, you're looking for love. Well, you have to be ready. You have to get yourself in a certain mindset to be open and ready, not just sitting there going, it'll come. No, you have to be kind of, and you have to, once you discover it, you still have to work through all the blocks and your fears, because there's a lot of fear, heartbreak, cheating, leaving, physical abuse, past. It's all, as soon as the biggest fear of people, I think, is falling in love, and the next one is getting married, but once they do it, it's like, oh, it's pretty good. And then you go through the challenges. Maybe it's not that good. Like, the biggest fear is getting into it. And then it's like, oh, why did I think it was so difficult? And then you have to go through the challenges of that. It's the same with esoteric knowledge, right? There are aliens, extraterrestrials. I call them stellar. They are real. They are here. And accepting that fact is a challenge, people. And then dealing with, what types? Why are they here? What do they want? That's another, right? But the first step is the hardest, right? And then what's that song? The first step is the hardest. It's true. I think it's not just true in your life, in your career, in your love, but in esoteric, right? Before you learn the secret of the universe, you have to understand, what's your place? What are you here for? What am I here for? And then once you realize that that's a very boring thing. When you realize that, when you realize life is very boring, that's when you say, oh, okay, let's find something more because I'm bored. And then you find that boring and you go, okay, let's find something even more. Oh, that's boring. Let's find something even more. And then you end up, you're old and you're dead. That's the secret of life. The secret of life. Learn something, get bored, go deeper. Get bored, go deeper. Get bored, go deeper, get bored, and then dead. So you're not sitting around. Oh, I got it all figured out. Of course, it's the multiverse. No, that's just one thing. So seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall open. They're all relevant, right? They're all, if you study that a little bit, right? Knock and the door will open. One door closes, another door opens. You ever hear that? So it's the same thing. You get bored, right? One door closes. Okay, I've learned that. I'm bored. Now what? Oh. Right? I think that's life. You're always seeking, you're growing. The moment you say, I've got it all, the person who said, I got it all figured out, I'm the smartest person in the world, I understand everything, stay away from that person. Run. Run. Don't walk, run. The teacher you want is to say, I know very little. And they actually know a lot, right? They're very adept, but they're very humble. What I know, because the more you learn, you realize you don't know anything, right? Whatever it is, without love, I know what love is. No, you don't. There's a lot going on. I know that the teacher that says, I know nothing. And they know a lot. That's the kind of teacher that teacher understands. They can never understand everything. That the universe is very, very big. And that's why you should, whenever you get bored, it's telling you need to learn something else. Go deeper. Don't be depressed. Depressed is like, I'm bored. No, you're bored means you're done at this level. Now you need to go to the next level. Get excited. Find something, and get into it. And not the negative stuff. Don't do drugs. Find something interesting and learn about it. Right? Find a hobby. Seek knowledge. Travel. Do something positive. And then when you get bored again, yeah, I've done that, and I'm bored. I've been doing that. Find something else. Go deeper. Go deeper. One door closes, another one opens.